On this episode, we're talking about a product that's set to change how digital printing works. Give you some insight to what it takes to bring a bold idea to life. We invited Martin Cusack, the product manager that led this change. So Martin, thanks for joining us. Maybe a quick introduction about yourself.
Yeah, hi Ken. Thanks for the invitation. Yeah, I'm Martin Cusack. I'm the product manager for Color in Esco. I've been here now for 10 years. So looking forward to the episode.
So Martin, can you tell us a little bit about the journey this product has made internally within Esco? Thinking back on when it first came to life or when it first got pitched internally or something. I remember this is towards Innovation Days project.
Yeah, sure. And you're right, Ken. It's a case of that a couple of years ago, it came up as an idea when the innovation team picked it up and actually started to put it through the Innovation Days. And it did well. I believe it won at that point. So then it got the idea as the same team was actually saying, okay, now let's go and take this to Drupa. And they had a great idea by actually saying that we'll actually take the whole innovation lab and put it into the actual stand itself at Drupa. So this was a great success, I think, for them and for the product and for Esco in general. And here was a case that there was 5 stories that got took into that innovation lab, and where different people come through and start to vote and go through the demonstrations themselves. And we did a live demonstration of PrintClone, different name at that time, but we went through the process and it came out as the number 1 vote in success of the whole event. So that's how we took it from Drupa last year, and we've since then taken it through to product.
Yeah. And what do you mean with success? So the Innovation Lab, for people who have seen it, there was at Drupa, one of our major exhibitions. Every 4 years, we had an Innovation Lab with 5 different projects. But what do you mean with success? What stood out of that feedback from that Innovation Lab? You say it was a number 1 project, but was it because of interest of customers or feedback or?
It was all of the above, really, in the respect of did it serve or would it serve as a solution that would help them in their day-to-day life? And that they came back there and said, absolutely. How much of a problem is this from a weekly purpose? And it's like, this is a weekly problem that they get. And again, from there is a case of how much time would this actually save them? And they said that on average, they're actually spending 3 to 4 hours on this type of problem on a weekly basis per job. And again, they're turning around saying that in doing so, they're spending multiple iterations as well to try to get this correct in this present moment in time. So they were saying that they actually wanted this to do this particular process and other processes moving forward.
Yeah. So that was Drupa last year. And then you brought the product more from a concept into an R&D project, I assume. What is actually maybe the big idea behind PrintClone? I gave a name away now, but
yeah, the big idea behind PrintClone is the case of that to be able to take a printed sample and be able to, with AI and the color management, be able to reproduce the file. So if a customer turns around and says, "I have a PDF, I have a printed sample, but can you help me reproduce the result of the printed sample in a simple way?" Being able to actually do it without having to go through all these multiple iterations and with all that time spent as well.
Okay, but I assume you need to do some measurements, so you need to have a device also that is able to do those measurements, I guess.
Indeed, we support the 3 devices from X-Rite at the moment. So that's the i1 Pro 3, the Exact 1 and the Exact 2. So here, what we're actually doing is a case of using the connectivity to the cloud, because it's a S2 application, is to connect the device to the cloud, and the software will prompt you how and where to measure. So you can simply just go through and take some measurements of the sample, and once you're happy with everything, it will rebuild to you or recreate you a new file.
So you have a printed sample. As a converter, you get a printed sample. You need to color match this, and you want to print this on a digital press. And the software guides you throughout that whole process. Tells you which points to measure using an X-Rite device, and then it will create you an output profile. Is that correct? How I see it?
Yeah, the way it works is a case of, you're almost correct there. So it's a case of it will turn around and actually say to you that you can actually say that on this particular file, I would like to measure the white. You take the device, measure the white, and it would indicate to you whether you've actually got a good measurement or not. So it doesn't just allow you to blindly go through and take some measurements. So if you measure the white, then you say, okay, save this, measure a blue as an example, a red, and so on and so on. So as you're going through, you're saving this, and this will then allow you to analyze against the press profile that you're going to be using. And so you need the PDF, you need the sample, you need the press profile and the device. Once you've done the measurements, it will create you a new PDF. So it's not a new profile, it's a brand new PDF.
Okay, and then you can take that to the printing press or send to your your workflow to do the repeats and hand it over to the printing press. Interesting. Without such a tool, what is the alternative? What do people have to do to make this to do the same thing? You mentioned something about can take a few hours, multiple iterations. What is actually happening without this tool?
Yeah, what's happening now at the moment, Ken, is a case of they're actually, imagine the salesperson's coming into the building with the actual PDF and the sample, and they're giving it to their pre-press operator. And the pre-press operator is using their, let's say, call it classic tools like the Adobe Suite to try to re-engineer how the file is actually going to be done and try to simulate that. But in essence, they're working blind to that. But to answer your question, they're using the Adobe tools.
Yeah. And then proofing each time, and then go through multiple iterations, matching it, getting a better to get an ideal match, I guess, a close match.
Yeah, so I mean, you're saying proofing as well. In some cases, through the interviews that we had with customers, they're not even going to the proofer; they're in fact going out to the press itself. So they're not going out to the Epson device as an example. They're going to say, okay, as it's going to be going onto the press, let's put it straight onto the press. And this is also where that negative impact comes in as well, is because if they're having to do multiple iterations, the press at this point is standing still as well.
Yeah, that's a very disruptive process and an expensive way of proofing and getting to the right results. Yeah,
indeed.
Okay.
And an awful lot of waste from it in terms of substrates and time as well.
Yeah. And maybe a little bit about the background. So you mentioned this was an ID pitch that from the Innovation Lab at Drupa last year. Now, recently, the product has been released. So that's been a journey, obviously. Any unexpected challenges that you had to overcome, or the team had to overcome during the development phase?
Unexpected challenges. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say unexpected challenges. I mean, it's a case of that we had certain challenges we had in mind in terms of, can we create the file in a certain amount of time? So is the conversion time going to be acceptable? Is those sort of qualities going to be there? So because it's going to be cloud-based as well, we were working with new technology, new AI, so new neural network technology. So these are new things generally. So those are the sort of challenges. If there were challenges there, then I would say those were them.
Yeah. And throughout that process, you probably also had some successes, so that you thought like, okay, something that really clicked, or that you really said like, right, this is now some successes. Can you elaborate on any of those high five moments from the team, maybe?
Yeah, we did a couple of, a few, naturally. We've done some sort of trials as we've gone through the process, live trials to actually then start to say, okay, now let's take a sample, let's do that. Let's put it back on the press and actually almost go through that process of actually sort of saying, okay, now we'll rebuild this one using PrintClone, now put that back on the press. And again, when it's coming through, you naturally start to worry a little bit as it's coming through the press, and you start to say, I wonder how accurate this is going to be and how acceptable it's going to be. So yeah, a few beads of sweat, I'm not going to lie, on that respect came down. And it's a case of as they started to reproduce it and they get it on let's say in the light booth, they do some measurements. So that was a proud moment. Yeah, for sure. So there was definitely a high five at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we know what it's about. It's called Print Clone. Maybe it be a bit for, you mentioned digital presses, but who is it built for? And is it available for all digital presses, or limited to a single provider currently?
Yeah, it's a good question. What we decided to do is a case of actually start with the HP digital presses at the moment. So we have a good relationship with HP anyway, but we also say that HP have actually got the dominant player in the market for this particular section. So we started with that, and actually then have their plans to actually then start to say, okay, once we started to roll this out, we can actually then expand it to other digital press types and other printing processes such as flexo and offsets. And that's also one of those things that we got back from the feedback at the Drupa, was the case of there's a lot of interest there as well to actually then start to say, yes, we have a HP press, but we've also got additional press types. It would help us greatly there as well.
Yeah. So you're setting the scene, choosing one of our long-time partners, which we know very well, and then start from there. Yeah, nice. You mentioned already something about adoption and our first users. How did they responded? The early adopters of the solution, or the beta testing, or the inner circle?
Yeah, very well, actually, in the case of, and they've given us a lot of good feedback as well in terms of not just the accuracy, but as I said earlier, the speed. We were measuring in different things. We were actually then starting to say, after we've actually kind of created this new file for you, are you happy not just with the quality, but the time it took to create this file? But another factor, what we're actually looking at was the ease of use. So we're very conscious of the actual fact of the drop of skill level in the industry. So not only could they use it maybe as an experienced person, but if they would feel comfortable giving it to, let's say, an inexperienced person. And we were grading it, if you like, on a 1 to 5. And we got some high scores there in terms of, yes, we could actually also get some, they'd be comfortable to give it to their colleagues as well.
Yeah. That's indeed a very interesting feedback, because skills are hard to find. Finding new talent in our industry, attracting it, and giving the demographic issues we will face, a shortage of labor in the different regions throughout the world. This is definitely a solution that can help overcome some of those challenges, at least the technical skills required to do this.
Yeah, we were also quite keen to actually, when we're doing the pre-release, we went across to multiple regions as well. So we're trying to actually cover, different skill sets, but different use cases as well. So we covered North America, Europe, India, etc., just to make sure that we had Australia, just to make sure that we had a very good demographic.
Throughout that journey, so you're collecting feedback. What is that number one thing that really validated the overall approach of this project? Is there, you mentioned already something, is that the usability, or the ease of use, or something else?
Of course, you're delivering on a pain point, right? That's the main thing that we're actually sort of delivering. This is a significant pain point, so that people, again, that you interview, people are turned around saying, how much time is this actually impacting you at the moment? And I would use that, say, an average of 3 hours. And it's amazing the amount of time that people come back and say, no more, absolutely more. So it's a case of, I think that we're actually fixing a real world problem here that we can actually try to impact with. But it's, as I said, it's wrapping out everything else around it to actually make it easy to use.
Yeah. So you mentioned something like it takes more than 3 hours. How long does it take with Print Clone?
Again, the average that people have telling us, let's say 10 minutes to actually, or less, to actually start to do that. And we actually had certain measurements higher than that in mind. But it depends on the size of the file, of course, that they've been using. But that's the sort of figures that they've been telling us that it actually starts to do. But like I said, it can just depend on the size of the file that they're using as well.
Yeah, but that's already an impressive result, even if it would take up to an hour. If you go from a few hours to up to an hour, then that's already a very impressive result. But I hear it's even better than, okay.
Yeah, we got some ideas as well of how we can actually improve further on those type of things as well. So it's, we've got other things in line to actually improve the solution as well.
Yeah. Looking ahead, and we're not going to give away everything, but you're talking about we have a few ideas. So what is next on the roadmap? What are you excited about this product to work on next?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things, to be quite honest with you. As I said, we have the digital side of things to actually work on next, but we also have it's really exciting to actually try to say that how can we move this into other processes? Because we know that we're actually making an impact for the digital side. But if we can actually, what would be really exciting to actually then move into the other processes like the flexo and the offset side of things, we can really, if we start to do that, and when we start to do that, then that's going to be another game changer that we're actually trying to do there.
Yeah, interesting. So interesting times ahead. People listening to this, where can they find more information about PrintClone, or where can they see it in action?
Well, if you go to our website, so if you go esco.com and actually then go into the software, you'll start to see a PrintClone section there. They can easily sign up for a trial there, but there's other additional information there they can download and review for sure.
Yeah. And I assume they can also come and visit us at one of the exhibitions that we are present in the coming weeks or months. Okay, so thank you. Big thanks to Mart for giving us some insights on what it really takes to build and launch something impactful in the digital space. If you're curious about PrintClone, visit our website, and thank you for tuning in.